Hi everyone, this is just to go through the multiple choice element of the genetics test. So please watch this, go through it with your paper and make corrections as appropriate. So question 1, it's asking what type of inheritance pattern is shown here. And this is the section of the pedigree analysis you want to look at. So we have two parents suffering from the disorder, having a child without the disorder, and that is indicative of autosomal dominance. And so the answer to question 1 is D. In question 2, it's asking if the child has blood group A, the father has blood group B, what are the possible genotypes of the mother? Well, if the father has blood group B, he must be IBI, which means he is giving an I to the offspring. If the offspring is blood group A, they must then be IA. So they've got to get an IA allele from the mother. If we now look at these potential mother genotypes, this one could give an IA to her child, this one could give an IA to her child, and this one could give an IA to her child. Therefore, the answer is D. In question 3, we have another pedigree analysis, and this time it's asking us what is the probability that this individual could be a carrier for cystic fibrosis. Now we know, because this child has cystic fibrosis, that the parents must be heterozygous. So they must be big F, little f, big F, little f. If you were to do a Punnett square of this, you'd have big F, little f, big F, little f. So you'd have that's not a carrier, that is a carrier, that is a carrier, that is not a carrier. So therefore it's a 50% probability. So B is your answer. In question 4, it's asking about two parents having each of the 4 ABO blood groups. So that's our Jack and Jill roll down the hill example. And if you remember, in that instance, they have to be IAI and IBI to be able to give all 4 possible phenotypes. So the answer is D. In question 5, it's asking which individuals are colourblind in this Punnett grid. The only individual that is colourblind in that Punnett grid is this one. Therefore, the answer is C. In question 6, you possibly are going to want to do a little cross here. So if we look at, we've got colour and we've got black as dominant, and then it's co-dominant with white, so that's speckled, C big B, C little b. So if we did C big B, C little b crossed with C big B, C little b, okay, then your Punnett square looks like this. So C big B, C little b, C big B, C little b. So you'd have C big B, C big B, which is black, so we've got one black. It would be C big B, C little b, C big B, C little b, so that's 2 speckled, and then C little b, C little b, so that's 1 white, and so the answer to 6 is D. In question 7, what you have to remember in genetics is every time you have a child, the ratios reset. It's not like if my partner and I are both carriers for cystic fibrosis and we have a child with cystic fibrosis, the next child can't have cystic fibrosis. The ratios reset every single time because it's new gametes every single time. So here we're saying freckles is controlled by a dominant gene. So two parents who are heterozygous have 3 children. So it's exactly the same principle as a normal cross. So little a, little a crossed with big A, little a. So you would expect a 3-to-1 ratio of the dominant phenotype, okay? And so the answer is B. There is a 75% chance that their next child will have freckles. In question 9, this is obviously a situation where you have dihybrid inheritance, but what it's saying here is we've got a heterozygous dark leaf plant with yellow seeds crossing with a pale leaf plant with white seeds. So in that instance, we're essentially looking at big A, big B, little b, crossed with little a, little b, little b. So you would probably expect to have a 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 ratio, but you're not seeing that. What you're seeing is you're getting all of the double dominant phenotype and all of the double recessive phenotype, which tells you that the genes are therefore linked because you're not seeing the recombinant phenotypes. In this one, in question 10, when we're looking at the determination of the dog's coats, you've got these brown and red, and then you've got dark and light. So what the question's asking is, what would the genotype of the light brown dog be from a cross produced from a dark brown and a light red? So the dark brown dog is going to be big E something, big B something, and we don't know what those somethings are, nor does it actually matter in this case. And light red obviously must be little e, little e, little b, little b. So we know that the offspring dog is light brown. So we know because it must get a little e and a little b from this parent. Because it's light, it must have another little b from that parent, so that would make that like that. But because it's brown, it must have a big E, and so that makes the answer D. In question 11, this is just a factual recall question, and that is the answer is that the genes are linked. That's what Morgan discovered. And then question 12 was one very few people got right, I think just because you hadn't fully read the question. So you correctly remembered that normally dihybrid heterozygous test cross will give a 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 ratio. But in this instance, it says the genes are always linked and no crossing over occurs. So in this situation, if the genes are always linked and no crossing over occurs, sorry, ignore what I've just written there, I was having a senior moment. What you would have is you would have your big G, big N, and your little g, little n, crossing with little g, little n, and little g, little n. But if no crossing over occurs, then the only gametes that can be formed are big G, big N, and then little g, little n. And then obviously on this side, the only gametes that can be formed are little g, little n. So what you're going to end up with are two possible phenotypes. You're going to end up with the grey normal phenotype and the black short phenotype. So your answer is D, a 1 to 1 ratio there. In question 14, what we know is we know that this curly allele is S little c, and we know that straight is S little s. To be honest, this pedigree analysis is kind of an irrelevance. You don't really need to worry about that, because if we know that straight is SS, then this one must have no curls. So we can immediately cross out B and C because they're saying that SS would give us tight curls, which it can't do. And then it tells us that the curly hair of the coat is due to the presence of this allele, and they can either have tight curls or be moderately curly. Now, if they've got two of the curly alleles, it suggests that that's going to be the tight curls. So the answer then is D. And finally, the last multiple choice question in question 16. So it's a test cross of linked genes, and you see you don't have a 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 ratio there. So the question is, what is the most likely explanation for these results not fitting the expected ratio? Well, the answer is going to be crossing over. None of the others make any sense. So hopefully that will have helped you to go through your multiple choice section of this test. You may need to re-listen to bits, pause it, replay it, and once you've done that, I want you to write any questions that you have on the test feedback page in the chapter 10 section on OneNote.